Hello, if you suffer from high blood pressure or anxiety or both, well, there's one herbal tea that you really need to avoid. That's what's coming up next. You stay tuned. I'll see you in a tick.
Now for today's 2020 idea to better health, please welcome on stage Dr. Joe.
Welcome back. I'm Dr. Joe of thedrjoe.com. Well, if this is your first time on this channel, can I extend a warm welcome to you. This is your home of 2020 ideas to better health. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe. And also please don't forget to click on the notification bell, because that's how you get notified of future videos that I make. So you know, when everything is going well for you, life is good, but for some reason, you know, you're doing everything right, but for some reason you discover that your blood pressure is a little bit out of whack and you're wondering what is going on. This story I'm about to tell you is about a specific herbal tea that I introduced into my lifestyle earlier this year. It's a funny story. What's this tea I'm talking about? It's Matcha Tea, okay? Matcha Tea. This is the tea in question, and it's got nothing to do with this brand, by the way. It's all about matcha tea in general. Matcha tea has been receiving a lot of attention on the internet lately. I sort of felt I was missing out, you know, fear of missing out, because I love teas, as you probably know. I love lots and lots of teas, and matcha tea turned out to be one of those teas that I had not introduced into my life, and I thought I should get it. So I went and I got a good number of cans of this matcha tea. I got this. I was using it for about 3 weeks non-stop every day. During those 3 weeks, I discovered that my blood pressure was the top value was in the 150s and the lower value was in the 90s, and I was wondering what on earth was going on, because my blood pressure is usually pretty good. So I had to do a self-audit of what I had introduced into my life at that point in time. It turned out that when I did the self-audit, it turned out that this tea, this herbal tea, this matcha tea, was what I had introduced into my life. And to all intents and purposes, that was the reason why my blood pressure was out of whack. And I stopped using it, and of course my blood pressure went back to normal. Why did that happen? Well, I'm going to give you an explanation as to how and why that happened. And you know, because I had to do some digging to actually find out why this was the reason why my blood pressure was up. So let me give you the background as to why matcha tea is not good for your high blood pressure and is also not good for anxiety. The story starts from the plant from which the matcha tea is actually made from. Matcha tea is made from a plant called Camellia sinensis, and it is the same plant from which black tea, green tea and oolong tea are actually made from. But there's a difference between matcha tea and the rest, i.e. green tea, black tea and oolong tea. With matcha tea, the leaves of the Camellia sinensis plant are actually just dried up and then they're pulverized into a very fine powder, and that is what you have here as matcha tea. With the others, green tea, black tea and oolong tea, there's some processing involved. In fact, with black tea, the tea leaves are actually oxidized before you end up with the black tea. But with matcha tea, it's just the pure green leaves of the Camellia sinensis. That's what you get. What that means is that you're actually getting everything good about the Camellia sinensis plant leaves, as well as everything bad about it. And therein lies the problem. So what's good about the Camellia sinensis plant and the matcha tea, as well as the green tea, the black tea and the oolong tea, is that the Camellia sinensis plant leaves actually has high levels of epigallocatechin 3 gallate, which is the antioxidant, and that's the reason I bought the tea in the first place, because it's got high antioxidant levels. So with the matcha tea, because it's coming from the pure leaves and you're consuming the entire leaf, I felt I'm going to get a higher content of the antioxidant. But just like you've got that, you also got 2 other compounds that are in direct competition with each other. And by that I mean a non-essential amino acid called Theanine. The Theanine has a calming influence on the body, which is good, but alongside that you also have caffeine in the matcha tea, which is a stimulant. So you have the theanine, which has a calming influence on the body, as well as caffeine, which has a stimulating effect on the body. So you've got these two things competing against each other. So whether you become calm and focused, or you become excitable, anxious, fretful, or even having problems initiating sleep, depends on the ratio of the caffeine to the theanine you have in the tea in your hands. Because the matcha tea, the green tea, the black tea, and the oolong tea, they all have varying levels of caffeine and theanine in them. Like I said before, the green tea, the black tea, and the oolong tea, they're processed teas, so they have a lower caffeine to theanine ratio in them. In fact, the black tea has a ratio of 2 caffeine to 1 theanine. The green tea has a ratio of 1.5 caffeine to 1 theanine. In the matcha tea, the ratio is 2.5 caffeine to 1 theanine, and that is why the matcha tea is not a very good tea for you if you've got high blood pressure or you've got anxiety, or both. Never mind what the retailers of the matcha tea will tell you, because when you go to their website, they're going to emphasize the calming influence of the theanine, and they tend to de-emphasize the fact that the matcha tea actually has a high caffeine content. I can tell you from personal experience that the caffeine content of the matcha tea is not ideal for somebody who's got high blood pressure or anxiety, because it's going to make both conditions worse. In case you have forgotten, caffeine actually has a stimulating effect on the sympathetic nervous system. It revs up the sympathetic nervous system, and that's why it's not good for anxiety, and that's why it's also not good for someone who's got high blood pressure, because for both conditions you want the parasympathetic nervous system to dominate the sympathetic, and in this case the sympathetic wins. And if you remember, when I did a video on the herbal teas for high blood pressure, I did include green tea as one of the teas you can use to control your high blood pressure. However, I specifically said in that video that if you're going to use green tea for high blood pressure, you have to go for the decaffeinated variety. And the reason is because the caffeine effect of the green tea overrides the theanine effect, and because of that, the decaffeinated variety is what you must use. The same underlying principle applies to the matcha tea. The dominance of the caffeine is unquestionable. So as far as this video is concerned, if you're going to use any tea that arises from the Camellia sinensis plant, go for the green tea, but use the decaffeinated variety. But you must avoid the matcha tea, because the matcha tea will exacerbate your high blood pressure, it will make your anxiety worse, and is worse when you've got both conditions. Anyway, I hope you got some value from this video. As usual, give it a thumbs up if you learned something, and if you got any comments, leave your comments below. Share this video with anybody whom you think will benefit from it. That's it. Until next time, well, this is Dr. Joe signing out.